King Kong. Racism allegory because monkey. What?
On the subject of King Kong, there's think pieces about various ways it can be interpreted, but I don't think it's exactly controversial to suggest that a movie made in the 30s about a giant savage ape who is captured by white men, transported across the ocean in chains, and then abducts a white woman could possibly have some racial coding involved. And for the sake of my comment section...
Yeah, I love this particular genre of like right-wing bait or whatever, where you have the most obvious examples of racialization in a piece of media, and then they'll be like, wow, you see a black person in this caricature of a black... Like, if you Google, like, hold on. It's so stupid, because if you go like, if you go like 100 years ago or whatever, like minstrel show blackface or whatever, and it's like, bro, you think that person on the right looks like a black person? Well, you see this and you think black person? I just think it's silly face paint. What? No black person looks like that. It's like, I know that, but the people who made this were the ones who made the association. It's like when people talk about racial allegories in fantasy media or whatever, when in World of Warcraft, the trolls literally are just like Rastafarian Jamaicans or whatever. They talk like Elo man, and they believe in juju, and they have like Loa that they worship and stuff. It's like, bro, where's the racial allegory? And then all the Draenei have like Eastern, I think they're like a Romani association, like Eastern European. And then you look at like the Tauren or whatever, and it's like, bro, racial allegory for the giant nomadic peaceful cow people who have giant totems and they have like feather headdresses and stuff. You're gonna tell me there's some kind of Native American association present in this? Like, bro, what? You look at this and you see Native Americans? And then you go back to like the father of modern fantasy, you know, J.R.R. Tolkien, where he describes orcs as having like, what was it, like Mongol Asiatic features or something? It's like, obviously, like there's coding in all of this. The original King Kong was from like the 30s, and it was about a bunch of white people going to like an undiscovered island, darkest Africa shit with like super savage native tribe, bone through their nose shit. And then they take, you know, King Kong back. It's not that King Kong is meant to be a black guy, because that's not the point. That doesn't follow. King Kong is meant to be like a symbolic representation of the allure and spectacle of the Orient. In the original King Kong, up to his interpretation today, that's the point. Like, that's the point. Like, it's not like the white men went over to Skull Island and they saw all these crazy native dudes or whatever, but then like King Kong is like a big native dude. No, that's idiotic. But it ties into cultural narratives about colonization, obviously. And then, you know, in line with all of that, in line with all that analysis or whatever, you have this tard being like, King Kong, racism allegory because monkey what? Dude, watch the original King Kong. Like, you seriously think there's no racial commentary there? You kidding me? Like, hold on. Original King Kong, Skull Island natives. I'm contemplating whether or not there's any potential for a racial narrative present in the original King Kong. I'm thinking about it. I'm contemplating. I'm having thoughts. Now you're just racist for thinking that? Yeah, these are all actually intended to be other white Europeans. It's the Skull Island is actually like 400 miles west of Ireland. You know, it's just one of those, like, near Iceland, you know, you go over, it's just like, yeah, hello, my fellow Anglo brethren. Bro, skulls are white. What are you, racist? There was definitely nothing in the 1930s. Definitely there was nothing at all racialized about having a captive white woman being sacrificed by a bunch of coded African natives to the gigantic King Kong, who fell in love with her rather than eating her, which is what they expected. There's nothing, whatever. It's stupid, dude. Media analysis. Skull Island is one of the Channel Islands right off the UK, like next to Jersey. Yeah, exactly. Response to the thing, overly... Oh, is that Overly Sarcastic Productions? Is that what that is? Another day, another checks notes, Twitter firestorm about a 3-year-old video that references 90-year-old media cold take. Cool. There's nothing objectionable what was said here, like, at all. Not even remotely. The post that started the discourse. I'm not reading this from a blue check mark. Jesus Christ. Do you think making fantasy races that are allegories to races IRL is problematic? It's not necessarily problematic. It's also just like how our brains work, you know? Like if you look at most fantasy media that's made in the West and you have like the different races and stuff, usually the other fantasy races will in some way tie into our understanding of some foreign culture, and the human race will be like, you know, Westerners. Like if you look at, for instance, WoW humans, you know, like the humans in World of Warcraft, and I keep going like here, let me hold on. WoW Stormwind. I always go back to WoW because it's just the universe that I'm most familiar with. But like Stormwind, the light, which is the religion that humans tend to care most for, which is just clearly like a like Christian light kind of mythos or whatever. But if you take a look at the architecture and the design sensibilities and all that stuff of the human settlements, it's meant to be like a cartoony upscaling of like medieval European villages. Like the building materials, the design sensibilities, the color coding choices, it's like really obvious what they're doing, you know? But then if you like, hold on. And then if you take a look at the troll villages, or what's the big troll city? What's the big troll? There's like 50 of them. Zuldazar or whatever. It's like, oh, Aztec or Mayan, you know? Like, oh, like clearly. This is art or whatever. But like, here we go. The Zandalari trolls. Like, you telling me they didn't pull this from like Central or South American lore? Like, yeah, clear like come on, you know? You see that and instantly it's like, oh, well, what, you know, where'd they get that from? And then you look at what's like the Viking people in the Vrykul. Yeah. Yeah, and then you take a look at the Vrykul, which are an entirely different race, and it's like, oh, they're like Nordic people, you know? You take a look at their buildings and their shit, whatever, and it's like, oh, you know, again, it's all cartoony, but whatever. I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just something you have to not pretend isn't real, basically. Wait, I thought they were Jamaican. It depends on the trolls. In WoW lore, trolls are one of the like progenitor races on the planet. Like orcs and Draenei are aliens. Elves are like one of the progenitor races as well. And then you have the stuff from the Titans. There's a whole lore thing, but trolls are one of the like old races that predate a lot of the newer stuff. Yeah, elves are evolved trolls, and then there's the other stuff. Yeah. So the trolls are everywhere, but the main trolls that you play as in the game are Jamaicans, and then there's some other troll civilizations that are like Mayan and Aztec and stuff. Evolved trolls sounds racist. Well, that's an excellent point, Posadas John. Do you think it might be a little weird that you have trolls who are extremely heavily coded, for the most part, as Central and South American, and elves evolved from trolls due to their presence to the was it the Sunwell, the Moonwell, what was it again? Like the exposure to arcane magic gave them like a higher sensibility and they became more enlightened and more powerful. Like, is there something to that? A little? Sunwell? Yeah. A little bit? Like, again, I'm not saying it's racist. I just feel like it's kind of worth looking into that you have the night elves, which are meant to be like a relatively enlightened people. I mean, the high elves, hold on. So the high elves in WoW lore were like the apex of a civilization in their time. Again, I'm not getting into all of it, so please, God help me with the lore nerds, but like, here are the high elves, okay? For the time they were around, and bad stuff happened, okay? Look, there was some wacky shit, there was some old gods, there was a big explosion, but the high elves were definitely what one might call civilized, and they're basically an evolved form of a broadly dispersed race that is tied mostly to things like Aztec iconography. You understand how it's like you have the savage races and then you have this, right? You see? Now, it's more complicated than that, obviously, but there's something there, right? There's like an implicit sort of suggestion, maybe a thought or a type. They also turn mostly into mana addicts. Yes, the lore is complicated, but you get what I mean, right? You have all of the like, oh, look, you have like the ancient Mayan trolls, and then some of them spend too much time near magic, and then they build this. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, obviously the lore is complicated, but just from a glance, you know, it kind of seems like they maybe evolved a little bit. Okay, again, just why is it even ambiguous if it's racist then? I feel like you guys are trying to moralize this too much. This happens everywhere, and you do it too. It's just a matter of examining our biases. Because you know what, guys? I'm going to say it, and maybe people don't want to hear it, but you know what? The Mayans, by modern standards, were uncivilized. You know why? Because it was like 1,000 years ago. Yeah, no shit. They didn't have germ theory. Like, yeah. Like, well, you know, like, how dare they suggest that No, I think it's okay to suggest, actually, that the Mayans, relatively speaking, were uncivilized. You know, that's fine. I don't think they were, like, disproportionately uncivilized at the time or whatever, but, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that cultural cross-comparison. I think the weirdness is when it becomes, like, a racial trait. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind the idea of exposure to magic elevating the trolls into like high elves, because you could say, well, magic fed them, it corrupted them, it elevated them, but it was eventually their downfall. I mean, the high elves, they lost everything, and the Zandalaris didn't. So something there. What bothers me is the essentialization, the idea that there's something fundamental to being a troll that means they couldn't do this, as opposed to it being like cultural stuff. And for what it's worth, WoW is actually pretty good about not doing the essentialization. Even the even the orcs, who are generally thought of in the canon as like savages or whatever, as time has gone on, more effort has gone into depicting the orcs as a noble shamanistic race who are perfectly capable of being technologically and socially advanced. It's mostly just like a cultural thing. In fact, if I remember correctly, like in Warcraft 1 and 2, the orcs were just like evil demonic crazies. And then by Warcraft 3, you play as the orcs, and you play as Thrall, and Thrall is an escaped slave. He lost to the humans and was enslaved and was raised in captivity by humans, and then eventually escaped, and he became Orc Jesus, basically, where he tries to like lead people and like get along and everything. And you see more stories about how humans instigate a bunch of conflicts and how racial divides actually make it harder for them to get along. And I don't know, I think it's pretty good. Maybe one of the saving graces of the Warlords of Draenor expansion is the fact that you actually get to go into an alternate timeline and kind of sociologically explore their ancestry and learn interesting stuff about it with regards to I mean, the expansion was shit, but but is it good to civilize other societies? I mean, in some cases, like through diplomatic pressure, you can try to get them to not do bad stuff, but I'm not endorsing. Let it be clear, I am not speaking out in favor of the general like foreign policy strategies of societies in World of Warcraft. Any world which is of Warcraft probably engages in geopolitical strategies that I don't personally endorse. You know, I think they should try other things other than the Warcrafting to get along with each other. War is being crafted. Yeah, we need World of Peacecraft. Unironically, one of the biggest things that's WoW right now is that their insistence on having a permanent status quo is preventing them from just uniting the two factions. Seriously, for multiple expansions now, the Horde and the Alliance should not be fighting against each other. It made sense early on when it was like the race to Draenor or Outlands or whatever. The race to the Outlands or like the Frozen Throne stuff. Cataclysm, it makes sense. Okay, they're fighting against each other. But for the past like 4 expansions, there's like the A plot and the B plot, and the A plot is like, hi, I'm God, I'm from the other dimension that you didn't know about, and I'm going to end the universe unless you can stop me. And then the B plot is like petty bickering between the Horde and the Alliance. It's like, why the fuck are you fighting each other? You literally worked together to defeat Sargeras. You pulled him out of the sky. He stabbed the planet. What? Hold on. I need to play this, and then I'm reading donos. Okay, hold on. This is stupid. Anyone who thinks this is dumb, you're correct. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna play a portion of the ending cinematic. After one of the raid tiers. Okay, and I want you to know that after this happened, the two sides, Horde and Alliance, continue to bicker with each other. Like, after this happened, they were like, you know what's really important? Mindless squabbling, okay? I need you to see, like, what they're returning to on here, okay? Thank you. You're just gonna have to deal with this, okay? Okay, so here we find the final boss of everything, all right?
Is over.
Now, you're wondering, how big is he? He's that large. That's his size, okay? After this happened, they went back to fighting each other. This happened, and they have to convince the player base, like, okay, now let's do some PvP where you fight over, like, foresting rights or whatever. Alright, that's enough. The idea of having shit like that happen and then being like, yeah, dude, time to go to... What's that place to the north of the Barrens again? Azurite? No. One of the initial PvP grounds. What the fuck is it? No, not Alterac. Ashenvale, yeah. All right, guys, we ousted the god from the big death cloud above our planet. All right, time to go to Ashenvale so you can fight over logging rights with the Night Elves. So stupid. Power creep the story into how do we keep the conflict going. They still have the big bads. They have the Void Lords. You know, because they have to keep escalating the conflict or whatever. So like the like biggest bad is the Void Lords. But after they do that, I don't think they can go further than that. So I don't know. Probably Goatman. How do you escalate after Sargeras? The Void Lords. Let's be real, it's always the Horde's fault. Lich King won that one Hellscream. How can you say it's always the Horde's fault? Nah, I disagree.